So now we're in the offseason. The biggest name potentially to ever become a free agent is out there. So right off the bat, without any research, we're going to go through 12 names. And first name is Shohei Ohtani. Michael Burns, what team does he sign with?
The Boston Red Sox.
The Boston Red Sox. All right. Wes.
Seattle.
Wes. Seattle's a good one. So, Michael, what do you say Boston for? Just a hunch or?
There have been reports that Boston is interested in him. Boston isn't necessarily, I think, all in next year. So they can take that year where they don't have him as a pitcher, where they don't have a full strength elbow. They're getting a new GM who's going to maybe want to make has the books, I think, to make a splash. He's got the farm system behind him. I think Ohtani could be that piece that would get them to the next step like the Texas Rangers did this year.
West Seattle? Is it more so because of the hitting?
No, I think there's a couple things at play there. I read that Ichiro was one of his idols. I also read that he spends his off seasons in Seattle and he loves being there. And I also think because of those things, I think one of the comments he made during the season was he wants to win. He wants to go to a winning team. He doesn't want to go to a team that is rebuilding per se. That is rebuilding or is just going to pay him the money to come play for an average team. And I think what Seattle has is a very good team that underperformed last year. So I think they might find a way to structure a deal where they'll give him the opportunity and sign it long enough so that he can come back and pitch in Seattle. And him in that lineup would be freaking awesome.
I want to go back to this real quick. So you just mentioned a team that underperformed. I mean, they missed the playoffs by what, one game?
Yeah.
Had they beat Texas 2 games beforehand, Texas is out of the playoffs. Seattle's in that spot.
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
And they could be the team we're talking about winning the World Series today. So that's how close they are. I would love to see Shohei in a Mariners jersey. I think that would be a great fit. Not going that route. So we've got 3 different choices. Part of me loves the thought that he'd be wearing Chicago Cubs pinstripes, but he will be wearing white and blue in my mind. But for the Dodgers, it's just they didn't make a big offseason splash last year, right? They cleared the books. They didn't do a whole lot at the deadline. They didn't go above the luxury tax, in my thoughts, so they could go all in. And this is all in. They've been planning for this for years. He's already in LA. So they're not really, from what I've heard about Ohtani, is he doesn't want to really throw off his entire life. He's comfortable. He's the kind of guy who wants to be comfortable. What's more comfortable than staying basically in the same city, just playing in a different ballpark for a winning organization who has continuously won the division, has been in the playoffs for as far as I think we've been alive, and has MVPs around him, right? Can you imagine him with Freddie and Mookie in that same lineup?
That's 2 dangerous lefties.
Yeah, it's too dangerous. Like they're already the best team in the West. So
and you get Gavin Lux back. Oh boy. So that's my thought. Okay, next name on the list, the best hitter outside of Ohtani, because Ohtani is kind of both, right? Yeah. Cody Bellinger, Michael Burns. Where's Cody Bellinger wind up?
New York Yankees. As much as I want to say the Cubs, he's going to New York. New York needs a lefty bat really hard. They need outfield with Jason Dominguez. I think Cody fits it very well in New York. As much as I want him to come back to the Cubs, I would love to buy a Cody Bellinger jersey because he signed a long deal with them. But the Yankees, I think, need him more.
Agreed. Wes?
That's a tough one for me. I probably would have said the same thing for Mike, but I think I'm going to go off the cusp here and say the Giants.
The Giants. Okay, that's a good one.
I think that he fits their lineup really well.
He does.
I feel like the Giants want and need to spend some money, and they have the availability to do so. I feel like he's the type of guy where he can fit. They have the availability, and I think California fits him well. I think he enjoyed being in LA.
What are you saying, man?
It's
What
not.
are you
It's not.
saying?
Exactly where I'm going. I
What are
think
you
the LA
saying,
vibe,
bro?
Colorado,
fits him,
maybe.
man. Colorado, yeah, but they suck, you know.
Part of me wants to say the Cubs. I do think that is the second team that has a shot at him. But I got to co-sign with Michael. His dad played for the Yankees. He fits in that ballpark more than any other player. Lefty power bat in that ballpark. His numbers will just continuously be in MVP category. If he's the Cody Bellinger that we saw this year, there's no reason he's not in the MVP conversation next year in New York, potentially with 40 plus bombs and batting 320. So I don't. The Yankees are going to overspend for him because they can. And I don't see Jed Hoyer's just way too conservative with his money. I don't think it's a Ricketts thing. I just think it's a Jed Hoyer thing where he won't spend the enormous contract because he doesn't want to get himself Jason Hayward. So
Get burnt like Hayward, yep.
yeah. So I think that he ends up in New York with the Yankees. So Bellinger to the Yankees for Michael, myself, and Wes has him in San Francisco. So the third name on the list is the best sole pitcher. He's going to be the Cy Young most likely this year. Blake Snell hitting the market from the San Diego Padres. Mikey, where do you think he ends up?
Oh, who needs? You know who would be good for him to go to? The Texas Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
They could use more pitching. They've got kids coming, but I don't think they. I could even say, Nathan Eovaldi earned his contract with Boston when he had his great playoff there. They re-signed him. They could. Texas could do the same thing with Jordan Montgomery, turn around and pay him. But I think Snell. I think it fits well there. Snell going to the Texas Rangers.
Wes?
For me, I think Mike mentioned the team. For me, it's Boston. They need help in their rotation in a bad way. I think he's the best available pitcher out there. And I don't think they have any lefties in their rotation, if I'm correct.
Chris Sale, but is he in the rotation?
What do you
Paxton? It was Paxton free agent now?
He's a free agent though, isn't he?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good one. I have a team that's going to piss both Michael and I off, but the St. Louis Cardinals, they need pitching, I think, more than any other team right now.
Yeah, it's a good one.
The Adam Wainwright's gone, right? You lost Jordan Montgomery, and then Jack Flaherty, right? So there's 3/5 of the rotation gone. And I couldn't tell you who the other starters were other than Miles Michaelis. So you're going to need to stack that rotation for St. Louis. I don't think they liked how this past season went. He is the perfect St. Louis Cardinal, right? Just a pesky MFer who just gets under the skin of everybody, and he's instantly, in my mind, a hateable person in St. Louis. So that's where he's going.
That's a great one.
So the next name on the list is Yoshi Yamamoto. So Yoshi Yamamoto, he is likely to be put on the block out of the Japanese Baseball League, the NPL, I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, NPL.
Nippon. He's actually supposed to pitch this weekend in the Japanese World Series. He is the best. They're saying right now he's potentially the second or third best pitcher on the market if you include Ohtani. So let me throw the statistics out here. In 2021, he threw 193.2 innings with a 1.39 ERA. In 2022, he threw 193 innings, so 2/3 of an inning less. Much worse, 1.68 ERA. So 1.32, 1.68. And this year, only 171 innings with a 1.42 ERA. So combined over the last 3 years, he's pitched just over 460 innings with about an average ERA of 1.45. So he's a dude. Where does he end up?
And he pitched in the World Baseball Classic, didn't he?
He did. Yes.
I think I remember watching him pitch in the
Yoshi Yamamoto.
Pretty impressive.
Or it's Yoshi something. I'm just calling him Yoshi because it's probably what he's going to be called over here.
Yeah, I think Seiya Suzuki recruits him to the Cubs. If the Red Sox don't get Ohtani, they get this guy.
What?
I thought uh, I could be making this up. I'm trying to find it, but I thought I had read somewhere that he and Senga are close. So I'm going to throw out the Mets because not only would he have someone there that he knows, but also the Mets are just willing to spend whatever, obviously, with Cohen, you know?
I'm right there with you, Mikey. Boston is where I would go with. That's where I have him headed. I just think it's like a Daisuke Matsuzaka situation, right?
Yeah.
Daisuke had a good career in Boston, and I think that this lines up the same way.
And they've got
Next name
Yoshi
up.
there. They've got Yoshi.
Yeah.
They'd be Yoshi.
Yeah. Yoshida and Yoshi. Ooh, that would be. I mean, I think that would be a great landing spot. Yeah, we'll see. So next up, Aaron Nola.
I think he re-signs with Philly.
I'm just going to co-sign that as well.
Yeah, for me, I think that might be the easiest one because he just fits in Philadelphia, man. I don't know.
Burns?
What do you think of this guy going? He pitched to LSU, so he's from the South. You think the Atlanta Braves would be interested?
Yep. I think that's a good take.
If he had his choice, he pitched LSU, so he's from the Southeast. He's probably a Braves fan, if not one of the Texas states. So let's still say Atlanta Braves.
Do you feel like the Braves are going to offer him money though?
But does he deserve top dollar? He didn't have a great season.
He's going to be the fourth most or third most, depending on where you're looking, highest ranked pitcher.
Yeah, I don't think he had the greatest season. He showed up with a 2.35 ERA in the postseason, but other than his regular season, he was just so-so. So I think
the Braves Sammy Sosa?
The Braves could be sneaky and pull a Matt Olson right here. Get a guy on a cheap and then get the best out of him.
I think he also re-signs with Philly. He makes too much sense for me in my mind to not re-sign there. He probably has more value to the Phillies than to any other organization. The team that drafted him, he's their number 2. Who else is their number 2 in that rotation? I don't see them. They'd have to make a splash with one of the other names in my mind, and they've already had so much money put out there with Trey Turner, with Zach Wheeler, as well as even Schwarber Castellanos costs a pretty penny, and they're going to be losing Rhys Hoskins here. So I see Nola taking a little bit less to stay with a team that he has comfortability with, and he's taken to the postseason on back-to-back years. What were you going to say, Wes?
I don't want to get us off track here, but if they re-sign Nola, do you think they try and trade for Mike Trout?
No.
Why is that connected?
Oh, because he's a Philly boy.
No,
Yeah.
why is Nola and Trout connected?
Because if they don't re-sign Nola, then they're gonna have to pay for an addition. They'll probably try and go after Snell, another top pitcher, to replace that. They have Painter but he had Tommy John, McAble's in their minor leagues, maybe Christopher Sanchez rounds out their rotation, but without Nola in that rotation as their number 2, it gets a lot different. I think he kind of solidifies it.
Mm-hmm.
Once he does that, I think they have the prospects that they
to go all in
for a Mike Trout, right? And they've been there twice, man. They've been in the World Series. They're right there on the CS. You kind of feel like they're just missing that one piece. They got an absolute black hole in center field for like the last 15 years.
Aaron Rowan did amazing. Thank you.
Right. So, look, dude, Mike Trout, the Philly boy. You don't think that he would absolutely want to get traded to Philly if Shohei Ohtani is gone?
Right.
I think it makes sense. Maybe it's a pipe dream.
There.
Who knows?
You got something there, and I think that that's something we can talk about more so down the road in the offseason, because I think trades are more so a development thing as we get into the offseason. So Aaron Nola, I'm going with Philly as well. The number one reliever out there, Josh Hader. Michael Burns, where do you see Josh Hader winding up?
Ooh, a reliever.
Mm-hmm.
He's leaving San Diego in Milwaukee. Do you think the Dodgers could be interested in that guy? Just want to go and sign a stud reliever to shore up the bullpen. They got money to spend.
Is he going to be their guy though? Like between Gratterall, Evan Phillips, like I feel like their
Caleb
bullpen's
Ferguson.
kind of.
But they don't. I don't feel like they like Gratterall being the guy.
I don't think they do, which is very strange to me. But I don't know. I think you're right on that.
So I don't think Hader goes to a team that doesn't have potential. I think he likes himself too much. He's not going to Chris Bryant himself and just go to the Rockies for the money. So
Wes?
let's say Dodgers.
Man, this is a tough one for me because I think there are a lot of teams that need that guy, that back end guy. Oh man,
The Twins.
No, they got Joan
they got
Duran,
Duran.
man. I can't see him
Yes.
there. I could see
Duran.
him going to like maybe the Orioles since Bautista is out and he's having Tommy John.
Yeah. I'm going with a team who, if they would have had a bullpen, they would have been in the playoffs, and that's the Chicago Cubs, right? They did not have a reliable arm in the back end of that bullpen.
Not even a single lefty.
Right, and he instantly lengthens that bullpen. You've got Albert Alzolay, who then now, as a young guy, you don't have to put the pressure of a closer on, but he can be a baller setup man. And then from there, I mean, I don't think you need to add a whole lot because you've got some younger arms coming up, but I do think you need someone with experience on that. He's already pitched in the NL Central. He's shown that he can shut down that division, and it's the weaker of all the divisions in the NL, right? You don't want to go to the NL East. The NL West, you've already been pitching in, and then you can go to the AL. But I think the Cubs need relievers like a hobo needs a sandwich right now. And I think that the best guy out there, they have not spent money on. The last time the Cubs made a big trade in the offseason was they traded prospect Jorge Soler for Wade Davis. But they've kind of gone year to year on closers, right? They haven't had a dominant closer. They got Chapman in 2016. They got Davis in 17. In 18, they mishmashed it with Brandon Morrow, who kind of fell apart. In 19, it was Kimbrel. They traded him in 21, excuse me. But really, they didn't even sign Kimbrel until June of 2019. So that was almost like a trade deadline acquisition. And then in 2022, I couldn't tell you who the damn closer was. So they need solidified arms at the back of that bullpen, and this is finally their opportunity to get one at a decent price, but also for a length that makes sense for them. And I just, part of me, like I have this inner feeling in me that the Cubs get Hader, and Michael's going to be a hater about it.
No, I like it. The Cubs don't have I think the Cubs have a lot of like long arm relievers that they have. They gotta make a move somehow to get a bona fide guy in the bullpen, a guy that can come in and shut it down for an inning.
What
is Kenley Jansen a free agent?
I believe so, but he's not. He's not what he used to be. I don't believe
he's not. But I'm saying,
Red Sox, so.
Yeah, I'm saying if that's the case, then Hader to the Red Sox might be a play.
Yeah.
Because their bullpen sucks.
Who's the next guy, Brandon?
Sonny Gray.
Oh, he's a free agent?
He is.
Mm-hmm. I've thrown Yoshi to the Cubs already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wouldn't be a bad Cubs signing, but they already have a pitcher like him and Jameson Taillon in my mind. But that's the kind of guy the Cubs do go after, though, right? Like not the high-end guy, but that middle tier to low middle tier who's quiet. But I see where you're going with this.
Yeah. Sonny Gray. He doesn't have a World Series ring.
Mm-mm.
The Angels popped in my mind for him.
That'd be a total Angels move, though. That'd be a total Angels move.
Hey, guess what? We don't have Shohei Ohtani anymore, but we've
But
got
we
Sonny
got
Gray.
sunny. Things are looking
Mhm.
sunny here in LA. Right, go, Michael.
Let's put Sonny in San Francisco.
Giants. All right, Wes.
I think I saw that he expressed he wanted to stay in Minnesota, but something about that just doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel like Minnesota is going to offer him much. So I'm going to go with my hometown team. I think he makes sense in Atlanta. And I think he's the type of guy that AA goes after, where the same way he did with Charlie Morton. He's a guy towards the end of his career. You can get a lot of value for what you're going to spend out of him, and I think he makes a lot of sense in Atlanta in that rotation.
I have Atlanta written down as well for all of those exact reasons. He was, in my mind, the next Charlie Morton is what I
Yeah.
have written down. So I agree with the Atlanta Braves. I think that'd be a sneaky middle tier rotation guy for a team that has it all except potentially depth in that rotation, right? We saw that that's kind of what ate them down the road with injuries to Kyle Wright. He had injuries to Max Fried, even with the blister, and he missed most of the year. Spencer Strider is your ace going forward, but what do you have behind them? That's the question, and I think that Sonny would give you that third or fourth arm in a rotation that you could turn to, and that would make sense. And he's not going to cost an arm and a leg, I don't think.
Yeah, and I think that's the key to me. AA doesn't have a track record of going after the top guys.
All right, 5 more to go. The next name on the list, Jordan Montgomery. Obviously, he's a world champ now. Michael, do you think he stays with Texas, or is he heading somewhere else?
He's going to Baltimore. Baltimore needs some
Baltimore.
pitching. To add a lefty to that rotation would just be Montgomery won't cost you an arm or leg. Orioles are already crying poor before they even called up Jackson Holliday and start trying to retain some of those guys. And Jordan Montgomery won't cost you all too much.
Wes.
I think I'm going San Fran for him.
Reasoning?
It's the Giants want to spend money. They want to get some players in there. I think him in that ballpark would be great for them, and I think they're willing to do whatever they need to get somebody in their rotation.
Yeah, they didn't really have a rotation this year. It was Alex Cobb and the other lefty, and that was it, right? They were doing like bullpen games.
They had Webb.
Webb.
Webb was their guy. Yeah.
Webb and Alex
Sneaky
Cobb.
good.
Other than that, that was really all they had. I'm going with him returning to the Yankees. I see that as a fit. They need one more or two more arms, I think. You've got Cole. You don't know what you're going to get from Domingo Germán. Is he going to be back from rehab, or is he just going to fade away? You've got Frankie Montas, who didn't pitch at all this year. I think he might even be a free agent this year. So you're going to need to add rotation arms. I think that he's familiar with the Yankees. He pitched for the Yankees as he came up, and maybe it's time for him to return on a normal deal. Like Michael mentioned, I don't think he's going to cost you an arm and a leg, but he's got his world championship now, so he can go where he feels comfortable, and I think he felt pretty decent in New York.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Next name on the list, I'm surprised he was in the top 10 on a lot of these lists, but JD Martinez, who kind of had a resurgence this past year in LA, he heads back to the free agent market. Where's he heading?
Wes.
Pass.
I got two on that. I want to say the Yankees. I think they just need a lot of help, pretty much everywhere. So they got. I don't know. I think Yankees. I want to say the Blue Jays need some help too. I think the Blue Jays are going to need some things, but I don't know exactly what they're going to go after. I think the Yankees are just going to have to spend. So JD makes sense for me in New York.
So, how about a team that could use a veteran with Joey Votto exiting? the Cincinnati Reds.
It's not a bad
Cincinnati
option.
Reds. I think JD Martinez would fit well in that ballpark. The only downside of that is he is pretty much a strict DH, which is why I think he doesn't go to like the top teams, because I don't think a lot of people are going to believe in that he's going to produce more of these years with his age. But I think the Reds don't spend top money. I think JD would fit there in Great American Ballpark, popping home runs and being that new veteran for them.
It's not a bad team. That's a good off-the-cuff veteran. I personally think Joey retains himself with Cincy, so I would if Joey doesn't stay with the Reds, that would be a great pickup for the Reds in my mind. I originally wrote down the Dodgers, but the fact that he'd be a DH, and I also have Ohtani going there, I'm going to pivot and go with a team that just lost the World Series last night, a team that he kind of had his resurgence with, right? He got traded to the Diamondbacks back in 17. Was that the year they had?
Something like that.
16? And I think it was 17, because then he went. Then in 18 he went to the Red Sox and won the World Series there. He's played in Arizona. Who was the DH? Evan Longoria, Peyton Smith. Honestly, I couldn't.
It was Tommy Pham sometimes.
Oh, it was Tommy Pham. Okay, so Tommy's a DH, but I believe he's a free agent as well. I think he's only signed a 1-year deal. So JD Martinez makes sense. It's a DH only position. He could fit perfectly in Arizona there. He's played there before, and that's a team that maybe needs a little more veteran presence. How young is that lineup? You had a starter as catcher who is young. You had a starter at shortstop in Perdomo. Longoria is done, so he's not going to be starting at third base. Gurriel is a free agent. And then in center field, you've got Thomas and Carroll. So you need a little bit more of a veteran presence in that lineup. He's played there before. I think that just came to my head. JD Martinez goes to the Diamondbacks in my mind.
There you go.
So number 10 is third baseman, the first infielder on the list. That is Matt Chapman from the Blue Jays. Third baseman, Gold Glove, I think Platinum Glove winner when he was with the Oakland A's. Where do you see him going? Michael Burns, go.
Not the Cubs.
No. That's Heimer Candelario in my mind.
This is a tough one. I don't think Chapman has a huge market. I really don't think he's a defensive guy. He's not an offensive guy. And that sounds like right up Milwaukee's alley. The kind of guys who they'll sign, it sounds like a big splash to them, but it's really not. Milwaukee has, I think, a hole at third base. They got eliminated by the Diamondbacks, so they're going to be looking to add. They still think the NL Central is theirs. So Matt Chapman, Brewers.
Wes?
This is a tough one for me. For a lot of the reasons that Michael mentioned, he's a defensive wizard, but he's not going to give you that much on offense. I might go with the Cardinals on this one.
Arenado's there.
Arenado's there.
You're right.
That's okay.
Man.
The White Sox?
No.
Moncada's there, but...
Yeah, I got it.
White Sox don't spend money.
Yankees.
Yankees?
Who's playing third base for the Yankees?
The ghost of Josh Donaldson.
Yeah. Me, a guy that can kind of at least solidify that position. I don't know, and maybe if there is a place to get offensive production from him, it's New York.
So part of the same thing that Michael just mentioned is you don't expect to get a whole lot of offense out of this guy, but you need defense. You're already going all in and getting Shohei Ohtani. So at this point, you can spend the money because at this point, once you go over that luxury tax, you better go over. So the Dodgers, I see as a great fit. Who played third base there this year? I think they put Muncy there for much of the year, right? Out of necessity, not because that's where they wanted him to play. I see Muncy more of a second base or DH or outfielder if you
Great.
need him. And that's if JD Martinez doesn't return to LA. But I see Matt Chapman instantly. Think of Freddie Freeman at first, Gavin Lux at short, Muncy or whoever at second, and then Chapman at third. You're not expecting him to produce at an all-star level at the plate, but you can rely on the Gold Glove defense. And if you put Shohei Ohtani in that lineup, I mean, oof, you've got. I mean, if you're leading off Mookie, you go Mookie, Freddie, Ohtani, and then somewhere along the lines of Muncy, Chapman, Outman. Who the hell's in left field? Vargas. So I see him, unfortunately, ending up in LA because I think he'd be a Justin Turner kind of LA Dodger, where his defense. I don't think Turner's defense was great, but Turner wasn't the guy for the Dodgers, but he could play up to be the guy when he needed to be. And I think that's the kind of person and player that Chapman can be for a Dodgers organization. Okay.
There you go.
Two more. They're both pitchers, unfortunately, because we've only had 3 position players. Well, 4 if you include Ohtani, but that doesn't really count because he doesn't play the field. Clayton Kershaw. He's spent his entire career with the Dodgers. Is it a shoo-in that he returns to L.A.? Michael Burns.
I don't see the guy going anywhere else. I really don't.
Yeah, same.
One team, in my mind.
Yeah.
His hometown team that just won the World Series. I could see him going home, playing in front of his hometown team, the Texas Rangers, just to say he did. I think that's who he grew up rooting for. Nolan Ryan, I believe, was his favorite player growing up.
There was talks of him going there this year.
Yeah, and I think he heads up to Texas. Just the swan song type of deal. He's played out his role in LA, and I just think maybe that he's at the end of his career. I don't want to say his end of his career because he's still, when he was healthy, he was fantastic. But
You're still really good this year.
But still,
you just gotta lower your expectation for his age a little bit. You can't expect ace of Clayton Kershaw. Yeah, number 2, Clayton Kershaw.
Do you think he needs to be in Texas? Like, they've just won the World Series. It's not like he's got to worry about the pressure. I don't know. So I'm just gonna throw that out there. Kershaw to the Texas Rangers, and then finally, and we'll go more into depth later on. As I mentioned, this is just a quick and it hasn't even been that quick. It's been about a half an hour. 12th name on the list. Erod, Eduardo Rodriguez. This is barring him opting out of his deal, which it sounds like he's going to. He's currently with the Tigers. Where does Erod wind up? Burnsy.
This is a really random one. I think it's a team that's turning it around. They traded away Juan Soto and added some guys. What about the Washington Nationals? They need an arm.
Interesting.
I wanted to say Cincinnati, but I don't think that's their fit. I think they need pitching, but I don't think Erod's it. But I'll just go Washington. They're going to look to add. Erod isn't a wild performer. Washington's not quite ready for that. But they would add a mid-tier guy to maybe get them rolling to the next phase.
I'm going to stay in the same division. I'm not going to go out in California because obviously he vetoed that trade, and I 100% believe it was because of the tax that you'd have to pay. And guess what? Florida does not have
Miami.
No, this is the perfect signing for the Rays.
Ooh.
Oh.
Different division, though.
Different division, yeah. What did I say? Did I say it's in the same division?
You said you're going to stay in the division.
That's why I was like, oh.
I'm the AL East, not the NL East.
I was like, oh, Miami, that works for you, right?
I'm sitting here looking at the NL East lineup and the AL East. I think he's the type of guy that just kind of fits what the Rays do. He's not going to be overly expensive, kind of like with Eflin. He's got some good stuff. They could get the most out of him. I think that makes sense for them.
I'm going to stay in the division of the AL East and go with the Baltimore Orioles, who I think should have traded for him at the deadline. He likes the East Coast living. I think he is a quiet ace for that team, where he doesn't necessarily have to stand up and be the guy, but he can be the guy. He Do they have a lefty outside of John Means? And Means is coming back off of Tommy John, where he did come back late in the year, but I don't know if I necessarily want to rely on Means just because you don't know what you're going to get from him.
Yeah.
Plus, having two lefties in the rotation, you go 1, 2, 3, where you go Means, or you go Rodriguez, Grayson, Means, and then you go Kramer and whoever else from there. I think it would make sense. That Orioles team, for the same reason that Michael had Montgomery going there, it's the same reason that I have Erod going there. I just think that Erod probably doesn't cost as much as Montgomery coming off the World Series.
Yeah, true. But, yeah.
Well, thank you again for listening. We are Barrels of Barrels, a Bourbon and Baseball podcast. We talk bourbon, we talk baseball, high proof and high heat. We'll get back into more of the bourbon here as we go into the offseason. Thank you for joining us here throughout the playoffs as well as the entire 2023 season. For Michael, Wes, and I want to thank you for listening and being part of the Barrelhead crew throughout the last 7-8 months. Now we head on to the offseason, and we'll continue to break down more on that on Instagram and all of our social media pages, so don't forget to follow us there. For Michael and Wes, I am Brandon. Thank you for listening. Michael Burns, send us home.
Let's go.